Hi, I'm Matthew Whitley, a senior at Middlebury College, and I'll be making this tutorial on behalf of NOFA Vermont. This is the first video of several that will show valuable online mapping tools. In this one, I'll be introducing basic landscape interpretation using simple mapping platforms. First off, why are maps important tools for farmers? Looking at aerial imagery can tell us a lot about how rivers have moved in the past, where they tend to flood, and where risky areas may be. Knowing these places can help you understand and plan for floods in the future. Climate change in Vermont means more unpredictable flooding, so knowing risk areas is important. The best way to find these is to interpret the landscape. So if you look at the resources for farmers page provided by NOFA, you'll see I rated Google Earth and Google Maps a 5 and 4 respectively. Let's start simple and just go to Google Maps. This is what the interface looks like. You have a big area with the map, and then you have a search bar at the top and a results bar on the left. In this set of videos, I'll be using Bruce Hennessy and Beth Whiting's Maple Wind Farms Andrews property, which is actually in Richmond, off of the Winooski River. So if you type in Richmond, Vermont into the search bar, Google Maps will automatically take you there. It starts out at a pretty zoomed out scale, which is good because you get a general sense of the landscape. If we wanted, we could zoom in using this zoom in bar or our scroll ball on the mouse. I prefer that. You can pan by clicking over and down in this circle, or you can click an area on the map and hold and drag. When you zoom with your scroll bar on your mouse, it zooms to wherever your mouse is. So you can zoom disproportionate to the middle of the screen. Anyway, this is their Andrews property just off of 89 along the Winooski River. And this is pretty low-lying land, and it's close to a lot of water, and so this flooded pretty drastically during Irene, after Hurricane Irene, and you know, this was experienced by many farmers across the state, which is one of the reasons that this risk management education grant was given to NOFA to study how we can mitigate these risks. Anyway, more about Google Maps. So this little yellow guy is the street view. So if you click and hold him, you can drag him over any of the blue highlighted lines, which are usually pretty high traffic areas. So Main Street and highways would be good examples. And if you drop them there, then you get into street view. Here you have a little floating gray pane that'll sometimes be square and sometimes be a circle. But if you click and drag, you can shift the camera's view and kind of tilt in any direction. So actually here, it looks like we're looking down to their property. Nope, it should be that way. But we can find out and zoom out and see which direction we are actually looking at. But yeah, so we could get another view of their property from the road. And now I have to turn left to find it because it's on the other side. So it's just beyond those. If you want, you can move the camera angle with these, what you would normally pan with, and you can turn using this north just by clicking and dragging it to get a different aspect. Down here you can click these arrows and zoom over on the road, just in case there's a patch of trees in your way, you can see better. I guess that's it. You can zoom in with your scroll bar and kind of, if you do it too much, then you just go back to aerial, but if you can zoom and zoom out. And to get out of it, you can just press the zoom out button far enough, and then you'll get out of it. That's called Street View mode. really those are the basics. Maybe another thing is over here, if you click on map, it gives you this gray background, boring map interface that you've probably seen when getting directions from Google Maps, that just color the roads differently and show very few features on the landscape. Or you can get satellite imagery, and that's really more useful in interpreting the landscape. So just from here, what I see is their property is surrounded by these two old oxbows in the river that show me that the Winooski River, which flows this way towards Lake Champlain to the west, it shows that the Winooski River used to wander and that these are old parts of the river. So these oxbows are just vestiges of where the river meandered. Just off the bat, other than the roads that are actually marked, I can see this is a power line. This strip of mowed grass is for power lines. And it looks, if you zoom out a little bit, there's a lot of forested land around. Then there's Richmond, which is pretty urban and impervious. And if you zoom to a medium extent, you can see other farms around, and then just your property. If you zoom in a lot, you could see that these look a little bit like wetlands, this kind of scrubby, brushy things close to the water. Alright, so those are the basics of Google Maps. And Google Earth, we can find, if you don't have it, you just go to it's earth.google.com, and here you can click download Google Earth, and there's also a link to that on the resources for farmers. And to do this, you just agree and download, and then follow the steps to downloading. But since there's already Google Earth on this computer, I'll just find it and bring it up for you. It is a pretty large program, so it does take up room on your hard drive, and it does take a little time to load. But when you start it up, you get these startup tips, which are nice, and you can click through them if you want. But since I know how to use it, I'll just show you. So it's very similar, except you have this globe, and it's more of a 3D surface, but you can drag and pan, so I could look at the Arctic Circle or at South America if I wanted, which is really cool. Or you can also fly to, which is essentially your search over here on the left. So I'll just type Richmond, Vermont, and it will literally fly me in to Richmond. And then so these places are just places that you've added to your Google Maps and have saved, and you can do this through other files that you add, or different layers that you find in different places. But probably for just landscape interpretation, you don't need it to worry about that at all. So it's the same principles. You can pan with your mouse, or you can pan with this button. There is street view for some places, but not everywhere. And then this is still the zoom. But one of the things that Google Earth does really well is that you can change your view. So I'll zoom in just a little bit, and then what I'm doing is pressing the control key, and when I do that, I can twist the screen. And so now I'm looking south, or south as north, rather. And if you click and hold, you can change the angle of the camera so that it's an oblique angle. So now I've let go of the control key, and I'm still using my scroll bar to zoom in, but I'm looking at their property at an oblique angle. And once again, I'm pressing control and clicking and dragging to move around and see an even more oblique angle. And then I can zoom in again by letting go. And so Google Earth shows the topography, like this little hill, but it doesn't show the things on top of the topography. So all of these trees are still just a squished flat image, but you do see how 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 mountainous or hilly the surrounding land is. And this is a really cool tool, especially when you're trying to judge how the land is sloping or how the land is topographically. And it's not so great because this whole field looks pretty flat, and chances are that it's really not. But you can zoom around to different angles that Google Maps doesn't let you do. And so that's why I've rated Google Earth slightly more. So now let's get out of here, zoom out, and maybe turn the camera a little bit again. And this takes a lot of time to get used to because they're very unnatural movements and series of the mouse. But Control and the scroll wheel turns your view as if you were stepping around without moving your head, and clicking and dragging is as if you were standing still and looking up or down. Finally, the last thing on Google Earth that is really helpful is historical imagery. So if you click up here, this little clock symbol with a green arrow going in reverse clockwise or direction, if you click on it, you get this little bar that has dates on it. So right now it's 2012, and it looks like the imagery we have for this area only goes back to 2003. But what we can do is we can change and go to any of these little lines on the timeline and see imagery from different years. So this is from 2009, and I can go farther back, and this is from 2008. It's not as good. And this is from 2006. And then, we can go all the way back to 2003, it looks like here. And the imagery will change, and there will be gaps in it. So you see here, back in 1992, there wasn't even any imagery for here, but there was just south of here, and it was in black and white here. So historical imagery is another really useful tool when you're trying to assess the landscape, and you can kind of see how the satellite's gone around and picked up the spots that it didn't have. So there it only had a couple places, and then back in 93 it picked up more, and then 94 or 95 even more, and 96 even more, and then by 1999 almost all of it except for where I wanted to look, unfortunately. But here back in 2003 it has all of it. And so those are the really basic, really simple tools in Google Earth that you can use to assess your land and look at different types of imagery from different time periods even. In the next videos, I'll be showing more complex mapping interfaces, chief among them the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources Atlas.